The people were on their way to Jerusalem for the celebration of Passover, and Bartimaeus hears the talk and he realizes that the prophet of Nazareth was, in fact, among the throngs of people walking along the road. He knew this was his opportunity, and he went for it, crying out for Jesus' attention. Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. I want you this weekend to join Bartimaeus on this road that day and notice that he is a blind man caught between worlds in so many ways. Blind Bartimaeus is caught living between Jews and their customs and traditions, their religious practices and their faith beliefs. And then there is Imperial Rome, who occupies this land and oppresses the people and feeds their own greed at the people's expense. Bartimaeus is caught between two worlds. But he's also caught between his own physical conditions. He could see with his inner eye his need for Jesus and his need for a miracle. However, he is caught between there and his blindness, unable to physically see these jars of clay that house these voices he hears and these expressions he is able to discern. He's also caught between people's tolerance and their ambivalence. They don't mind him sitting by the roadside begging. They can tolerate that. But they don't want to deal with his desires to see or his belief in Jesus' ability to heal him. He's perfectly tolerated as long as he limits it to the roadside while begging. But they are forcefully intolerant of his desire to move from the roadside and making attempts to be a part of the natural and normal flow of human movement and engagement. So there he sat, blind and begging. How long had he been perched in this middle space where people were that day trafficking? How long has this been his regular practice and routine? We're not told some of these details. How many times had he perhaps heard talk about Jesus, knowing that Jesus was not in the crowd, but it was only the subject of conversation among those passing by? And how much other subject matter did he have to compartmentalize or emotionally confront while waiting on his chance to be helped and prayerfully healed? Descriptions of gorgeous sunrises and talk of growing and maturing children, chatter about blossoming love between individuals, celebration of creative architecture, all of which he has certainly heard while sitting along the roadside begging, hoping for nothing more in life than a chance to see. How did he paint internal pictures when he heard talk of the Romans' dominance and their lack of regard for the Jews' beliefs and religious practices? I wonder if it pained his heart to hear about the senseless death of yet another Jew because a Roman pulled his gun from the right hip, thinking after 20 plus years and countless hours of training, along with the hypersensitive times that would make most people extra careful and super attentive. And yet, another young life taken, and the discussion remains the same. The rage sounds the same. The spin sounds the same. The politics sound the same. And we keep asking, where do we go from here? Blind Bartimaeus, sitting by the roadside, caught between worlds, caught between conditions, caught between people's tolerance and ambivalence. Do you know it's easy to lose yourself when living in this kind of middle space, isn't it? To become internally the very same tension as the culture's tension around you, feeling obligated to choose sides with virtue and vice. This is so easy to see and sense on both sides. Easy to lose yourself between sight and blindness, not sure what image to create from the interpretations drawn by blind observation. Easy to lose yourself when those around you are both irritated and tolerant of your very presence and existence, encouraging your roadside hustle as long as it doesn't interfere with their mainstream ambitions. But the day Jesus was passing by, Bartimaeus proves that he had lost a lot. He had lost his sight. He had no competitive station in life with Roman occupation. He had lost, along with other Jews, his cultural power. And when he starts crying out, it at first appeared he has lost his right to choose and to speak up for his choices. But when, after being told to be quiet, Bartimaeus kept crying out for Jesus, because he proved amidst all that he has lost that he hadn't lost himself. He hadn't lost the most significant things: himself, his voice, his choice, his fight, his determination. He was still there, even if behind his eyes. He was still there, even if it was behind his roadside begging expressions, his meager roadside hustle, his crowd nuisance. He proved that he had lost a lot, but he hadn't lost himself. Faith in Jesus, faith in Jesus, confidence in Jesus, belief in Jesus' person and power and ability kept his internal reality in a state of wellness until when he heard the crowd, he knew in it was the Messiah himself. Can I go ahead and skip to the practical application here, Mount Ararat? Live so with a confidence in the Lord that you don't lose yourself. Not in the constant struggles and battles you must face in this life. Don't lose yourself in the need to manage so much pain and heartbreak and disappointment and regret. Don't mess around and lose yourself while this culture fights the demon of their racism and the fear of living in a mutually empowered culture. Don't lose yourself in the multiple battles that surround you, some of which really ain't about you. Don't lose yourself in the immature, flesh-driven definitions of significance people verbalize these days, or the limited and restricted definitions of love that people have these days, including who and how you love. You can't let climates or other people's confusion make you lose your sense of self-awareness or your inner well-being and your commitment to your mission to belief in Jesus Christ. Don't you lose yourself. Bartimaeus was able to not lose himself because of where he found himself. He may have been trafficking in darkness because of the loss of his sight, but he found himself in the promises of the prophets that spoke of Jesus' mission that included miracles for the blind. In Isaiah chapter 35, verses 5 and 6, the prophet speaks of the day of salvation, and he talks about it this way: then the eyes of the blind shall be opened, and the ears of the deaf unstopped. Then shall the lame man leap like a deer, and the tongue of the mute will sing for joy. For waters break forth in the wilderness and streams in the desert. Bartimaeus, he heard what the prophets had been foretelling, and he grabbed his promise and introduced it to his hope. Then the eyes of the blind shall be open. And I know what he said. I don't know all that other stuff about water in the desert, but I know in my blindness I can resonate with what the prophet has said. And if there is one coming that can open the eyes of the blind, I'm going to grab the promise and tuck it. And every day as I sit by the roadside begging, I'm going to wait for that day when the miracle can come my way. This brought light to Bartimaeus' darkness. This is how he saw himself, no pun intended. He was shaping his internal reality. He was feeding his spirit this promise until it had him envisioning a life with sight. He never lost himself to a life of blindness. Instead, he stayed ready for when his opportunity would present itself. And it did. Thank God it did. And when he cried out and was initially shunned by the crowd, he must have thought, they must not know who I am. I have begged alms by the roadside simply to bridge these moments in my life. But in no way should my blindness be mistaken for weakness. or that my sitting by the roadside has made me believe that I've been sidelined in life. I haven't lost myself. I may have had to beg, and I might be blind, but I am Bartimaeus. I am son of Timaeus, which means I am the son of an honorable one, and blindness doesn't stop me from seeing myself that way. This is why he ignored those in the crowd trying to get him to stop crying out, and instead he cried out all the more. Bartimaeus, stop all that crying out. You must not know that my blindness is not a fragility. In fact, it has been the impetus for why I've got to keep crying, Jesus. Here is how you prevent yourself from losing yourself in life. Find the you that faith informs. Find the you that faith informs and build your mission from there. Do I need to say it again? Here's how you don't lose yourself in relationship, in your search for economic status, and your place of employment, and the seeking of titles, or the regret of having lost them, and gross disappointments and calamity and catastrophe and crisis. Here's how you don't lose yourself. Find yourself in the faith that informs you, and then build your mission from there. Whatever your current station in life, your position in the marketplace, your acceptance or disapproval in certain circles, your physical strength or weakness, none of these are threat enough or power enough to make you lose you. Age, potential decline, loss of love, destruction of relationship, betrayal by a person you trusted, heartbreak, all of these that take from us as they pass through our lives, some of which may even develop strongholds in certain seasons, but they never have to result in you losing you. Because here it is, not one thing you can experience from devastation to utter disappointment, not one thing can snatch you if you keep your faith informed by the promises of God and remind yourself of the power of your God and settle into your role in the purposes of God. As long as I believe there is a God, as long as I know that God loves me, and as long as I know he has ordered my step and is working things together for my good, I don't ever have to lose myself because I'm in some tricky seasons or some tough predicaments. Not as long as you see the life that faith intends for you. I'm almost done. Fight to keep you, because you were divinely and intentionally imagined. Fight to keep you, because you are blessed with a unique experience that God has ordered only for you. Fight to keep you, because your voice and your gifts and your ministry is desperately needed. Fight to keep you, because you are worth it.